Good evening. Welcome to the October 24th, 2023 Bethel Planning and Zoning meeting. I'd like to start the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have the commission introduce themselves. Can we start online, Bob?
Bob Legnard, Commissioner.
Douglas Cuny, alternate.
Linda Curtis, alternate.
Penny Kessler, Commissioner.
Ken Stevens, Chair.
Peter Grant.
Rob Wallace, alternate.
Beth Cavagna, Planning Director.
David.
David McCollum, Land Use Coordinator.
Amanda, Recording Secretary.
Thank you. Let me also read our use of personal electronic devices policy. Please note for the record that any personal electronic devices used by commission members is for the purpose of reviewing materials located in the Google Drive on the town's website. All right. First order of events, we will continue the public hearing for the Hub Shopping Center, 279-293 Greenwood Avenue, special permit.
Mr. Chairman, before the commission starts reviewing this, I just want to remind you that we did have a site walk on Saturday. At that time, various locations were identified pertaining to the existing plans and possible changes that may occur that may be presented this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ward Mizuko, lawyer in Danbury, here on behalf of the applicant. Just want to provide an update of what happened since we were here last 2 weeks ago. We've received some comments from Beth, which we've taken into account. You'll hear more about those in a moment. We had a site walk and thank you for coming out and braving the weather that morning. Several neighbors came out, also observe and comment, which was very helpful. The result of that experience and Beth's comments results in a new site plan with some revisions that we hope the commission will look upon favorably. And of course, the other development that happened since last meeting was the closure of Rite Aid, which puts additional pressure on this shopping center and makes it all the more important for us to make it as marketable as possible. We have also responded to the health department's letter, and I think we're clear in responding to municipal correspondence. So that having been said, unless there are any questions for me, I'd like to ask our project engineer, Rob Aiello, to tell us about the new site plan.
Okay, thank you, Ward. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Rob Aiello with the firm of JMC in Armonk, New York, and I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut and here on behalf of the applicant. Let me share my screen. Okay. So this is the aerial photograph of the Hub Shopping Center with Greenwood Avenue located to the south and Grassy Plain Street located to the west. The changes to the site plan that we're about to show really relate to keeping the existing driveway in this location here that goes out to this extension of Diamond Avenue, which then comes out to the intersection with Greenwood. So just to reorient the board in terms of what was previously proposed, there was a pad site with a drive-through located on the eastern side, and a second pad site with a drive-through on the western side. And the driveway at Diamond Avenue in this location here was previously proposed to be closed and relocated to a right-in, right-out driveway located at Greenwood Avenue. And now in the revised plan, second, I can do a little side by side. So on the plan is here. Bear with me a second.
Can you eliminate that sidebar of the commission members?
Yeah.
Okay. So just to orient everyone, this has the prior plan on the left-hand side and the new plan on the right-hand side. So what we've done is kept the existing driveway connection in the same location on Diamond Avenue and removed the previously proposed right-in, right-out driveway coming out to Greenwood in this location here.
And you've changed the driveway direction going in from what it is today.
Correct. Currently, when you come in, you drive straight in. What we thought was by providing this turn when you come in, and we designed this for emergency vehicles and garbage trucks, passenger vehicles. But we figured it would make sense to not have the traffic come in front of the proposed pad site without the drive-through, and to allow for 3 aisles of the parking lot for people to both disperse as they enter and to approach the exit as they're leaving the center of Diamond Avenue. So that was the rationale behind turning the driveway, you know, 1, providing better circulation in and out of the parking lot, and 2, keeping the traffic away from the front of the pad site without the drive-through.
So you've removed the drive-through from that site.
Correct. The eastern pad, the one on Diamond Avenue, the drive-through has been removed. And what we've done on the left-hand side, the western side, is we've kept the drive-through, but we've reoriented the parking in an angled configuration, which allows for a drive-through lane here with queuing that can come all the way out even to this location if necessary, without impeding the entry and exit into the angled parking spaces. And people that are using these parking spaces could then go around the bypass lane and leave the site. So, you know, in terms of parking, the plan, there are currently 194 parking spaces at the site now. The proposed parking will be 150 parking spaces, so there are, there are 44 fewer parking spaces. Before, we had 156 proposed, so this plan loses 6 parking spaces, mostly because of the entry into the keeping this configuration and losing this parking as you come in. But we're still able to be within the 25% that the commission is allowed to waive, and it still keeps the center at a ratio that we discussed last meeting, 2 weeks ago, at about the 4 to 4.5 cars per parking spaces per thousand of overall retail in the center in proposed condition, which is consistent with industry standards. So those are the modifications to the plan. And if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Reward, is there anything else I should touch on?
I know you found that one advantage to the new plan is the ability to get traffic back to the middle of town.
Right. What happened, we had done a traffic study for the original plan, and by eliminating this access out to Diamond Avenue, people that wanted to go, east from the site would have had to have come out, made a left here, and then made another left on Greenwood Avenue. Or, it was also discussed, it's conceivable that they could have elected to not wait to make the left, which would have taken a while, and maybe make a right and go up to Whitney and come back down through the residential neighborhood. So in keeping the driveway on Diamond Avenue, now you can, basically go into town by either coming out of the site and making a right and a left onto Greenwood, or even making a left and then coming down this segment of Diamond Avenue and coming back out to Greenwood just off the page. We have looked preliminarily at the traffic numbers and levels of service, and they have improved significantly as a result of this change. We went from, I believe, level of service F on a Saturday to level of service D or E, but most importantly, the Q is down to well within this driveway. Whereas before, the worst case Q may have gone back into the parking lot. And that's because of the additional left-hand turns, which would have been needed onto Grassy Plain Street.
So I wasn't here for the last meeting, and I wasn't able to make the rules. And I didn't answer the question or not, what type of business would you anticipate here? Considering you're putting it one. And would that indeed generate more traffic than if it was not a drive-through?
You want to take the business aspect of it?
Well, I and Randy could. It could be another pharmacy, it could be a bank, it could be something food related, but not fast food. We understand the restrictions there, and I did try to confirm in our initial meeting that any specific use for either of the pad sites would have to come back for approval. So provide some comfort on that. Any of the other uses that you envision?
Well, you hit enough of the spectrum. I
I'm
think.
sorry, could you say?
Oh, sorry, Andrew Albrecht, Regency Centers. You've hit a wide enough spectrum there, I think. Yes, a quick serve food operator would be ideal here to generate, livelihood and traffic in here. It could be some other, use. The problem that we're facing at this center and in this day and age is people that would be interested in a pad site with a drive up of any kind really are not interested in talking to you until you have some kind of approval. And that's a real hurdle that a lot of real estate companies are struggling with. And so while it's not build it and they will come, it's get the approval and they'll start talking to you. So there is that. But as Ward said, any tenant we would try and bring to the center, we'd have to come back to you with them and their use and a building then to show you. Our goal here is really, to enhance the potential for a really solid tenant to come in and fill Rite Aid. And when you start talking about property to potential tenants and you show them what the potential is and what we have approved, it really grabs their interest.
And in terms of the traffic study and the numbers that I mentioned, we did assume the worst case scenario out of the uses that Ward had listed in terms of it being a drive up restaurant.
Some type of food service. But not fast
service, right?
It's not a Wendy's, it's not a McDonald's, it's not.
Another question that came up from the commissioners and from the public last time was the walkability of the site, pedestrian access. So maybe perhaps take a minute and help us with that point too.
Sure. As we were modifying the plan for the pad site on Grassy Plain, we did take into consideration some comments from the public. And we've maintained the various pedestrian routes to the property, but what we've done is in this location here, we've added the access on the north side of this driveway. That way you can come across and get directly right in front of the building. And you also have the ability to come off of Diamond Avenue in this location here. This is more of a loading area. We're going to make this a raised curb so that cars know that they should go this way. So this will be at grade with the pedestrian crossing, and this will bring you up either to the new pad site or coming up to the existing sidewalk in front of the market building.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also providing still the connection here, which can bring you to, we'll have a crosswalk here on the final drawings, which can bring you up to the main building. And lastly, we do have the sidewalk that brings you here across this in a protected pedestrian area to bring you to the front door of this pad site. So these different areas that I've highlighted in yellow are the pedestrian connections, but the most notable change was keeping the access right there, the main access at the top to get you to the main building more quickly.
Thank you.
I'm Stefan Rafalia for Regency Centers as well. I would just add that on that east side and the last site plan, that pedestrian access would have required crossing two driveways, and those driveways aren't there anymore, so that's just a.
This time I opened,
No, you're gonna stay with the technical. If you don't mind,
not at all.
I'm gonna go through a few items and then Eric Svensson, our Director of Public Works, who is also a traffic engineer. And also just a reminder that we do have Hardesty and Hanover on the line too. In case you have questions you want to direct to them, and then when we're done with the technical aspects, we'll open it up to the public.
Thursday.
And here, just one thing that the three of us did discuss today that I forgot to mention to you is the Grassy Plain driveway exit and entrance. The way it operates now, you have a little bit of a, if you wanted to make, you have somebody doing a left-hand turn, you have enough give with the exit that a right-hand turn person can squeak by them for that right lane turn. The question is there any way that we can tweak that so we can have that opportunity to, when we're exiting?
To allow for the rights that occur when people are making the left. That was a specific request of the DOT. That we not provide 2 lanes of egress there for the ability, because what happens is if you have someone waiting to make the left out. And someone comes up on the right,
They can't
they
see.
can,
Right.
they can block your view of
I
the
know.
oncoming traffic. So that was a specific requirement of the DOT.
Eric,
Based
So,
on their current
what we
design
were discussing, and Greg on the line might have more information, is DOT would probably allow up to an 18-foot wide lane, so it wouldn't be 2 lanes, it would just be an extra wide lane to allow for rights to go around those who are queued up for left turns, so it's something to look into.
Sure.
There's probably, we looked at it, and I don't know if you want to bring the plan off, just
Yeah,
give me one
if,
quickly.
if you were, yeah, let me just. Put
Ask a
one
question.
little visual there. On your screen.
Yes, about this.
Okay. So this lane right now is drawn about 13 and a half feet. You know, a 12-foot lane with a little room on the curb. If we were to widen that, we'd have to move this parking over about, if we were to make that go from 13 to 18 feet, we'd have to move that over 5 or 6 feet. So we'd have to see how it impacts this parking lot.
We have a utility pole there as well at the top corner of the
So,
utility or light.
That utility
That's
pole in does
utility.
need to be relocated, but that's the one that only has the transformer. It's not the mainline pole.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Poles, pole. Poles are crazy.
that's being relocated anyways. Is that what you're saying, Rob?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And are you adding landscaping between the parking lot and the existing building on the Grassy Plain side there? Which
Barber
they
shop.
park right up, right, the barber shop, they park right up against the building today.
Right.
Against the building, yes.
So you would,
Yes.
you would have some,
We have some.
Flexibility.
Yeah, correct. That's where we could
Okay.
slide it north. We just have to make sure all of our movements work here because we are maintaining access to their loading in the back of the building.
Rob Wallace had a question if in regards to this.
Yeah, actually, I just want to understand what the impetus for requesting that changes. Is it just a matter of convenience for the shoppers, or is it a matter of safety or something else?
I think it's a matter of, that's correct me if I'm wrong, it's more of a matter of traffic and the traffic,
Just
the level of service.
But you know,
Avoid
it wouldn't-
congestion and queuing there.
right?
Yeah.
Because, one thing that I did like about the narrower driveway is to the point of it being pedestrian friendly, is it shortens that distance up where people are
Right.
crossing traffic, so it's kind of.
It's a very
Well,
good point.
it's a plus.
a very good point.
we tend to also like favor reducing the risk. And if making the lane 18 feet wide to allow people to sneak by and potentially have an impact, just like the DOT is concerned with. I'd be apprehensive about doing something like that, just from a liability standpoint. Because somebody's gonna come back and say, who designed this? Who did this?
We'd have to double check, but DOT has allowed that in other cases, so. I don't know if that,
Well, how do we feel
But
is saying
you're
that?
not, but that would be assuming that the DOT could be held responsible for approving and allowing something
But
like
if something
that,
happens, yeah.
I
which.
mean, I think they would, but, not 100% certain.
Andy, are they already on record as saying that they
Oh, yes.
restrict?
Yeah, I'll refer to
Right.
Rob, but as a part of their rounds of comments and reviews of our plans, that was a key factor, and the positioning because of the queuing with the two other signal intersections.
Right.
There were probably a couple other items, but those were the two big ones.
Oh, I'm sorry. In. With the proposed drive-through, that you show two lanes, that one lane is a bypass lane, correct? And then they
Correct.
queue up together. Onto a 12-foot,
Correct, so this would
getting up
be,
to the,
this here would be
corner.
the drive-through lane,
yep,
and then the outside one. This would be the bypass lane,
And they merge before they exit.
and they merge before.
before they exit.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to get clarity on that, and
But you have clearance, if somebody's parked at the window, there is sufficient room for the bypass for somebody to get around that vehicle that's parked.
yes. Wanted to make sure of that. And I do appreciate the work that was done as far as keep maintaining the existing entrance and exit onto the Diamond Avenue side. I feel that's very important. I'm a little concerned with the sharp left entering the site. I did mention before, this is a side yard setback. You do have 20 feet off the side. I don't know if it's feasible to look at that a little bit more to see if possibly moving the building, if there is a way to soften that curve as you come in. But I can live with it if it's okay with the fire marshal as far as exiting and entering that aspect of the development, but
Can I add?
Yes.
One thing, we just in glancing at this today, one thing that may gain you some parking spaces back, and I don't know if you had a reason for. Doing it the way you did, but if you were to, I just have to kind of stand up and. If you were to consider. Having this come in. And kind of do a little bit of an S and come this way, you may be able to. Add some additional parking. I don't know, that was just our initial look and thought it would be worth looking into. I don't know, maybe you've looked at it and ruled it out for some other reason. But. Another suggestion to consider.
We could certainly take a look at it. The concept was to take the main traffic away from the front of the building. Where people will be crossing the parking lot and going from the parking lot to the building. That would be really the main reason.
Okay.
that makes sense to me. I do, and I will say also, I do like the green space around the building. It softens the, my hesitancy, I'm a little concerned about the entrance and exit. But I do like the softening that you did.
Yeah, it
And it's
does.
really, it's a difficult site to work with, number one, because it's existing from the 60s. But I do think that a lot with the landscaping and things of that nature, you've tried to soften it as best you can. With the landscaping and with the green space, because there is an increase in green space now in that area.
Tremendously so.
Well,
We could look at, we could possibly look at
it looks tremendous.
softening this radius here.
Mhm.
To maybe flatten out the curve just slightly. To kind of address your concern about the sharp left hook. But we need that distance, that green space beside there so that if somebody is lined up, parked cars aren't blocked from backing out and exiting.
Mhm.
Oop, wrong part. Get rid of that.
And that.
And
So I am not
Yeah.
a traffic engineer, but I'm picturing So the west side entrance exit.
Mhm.
The whole purpose for somebody, I mean, the only reason somebody would be turning left would be to go down Grassy Plain or to head back
Yes.
downtown on Greenwood.
Right,
Which could be accomplished from the south side,
correct,
Yeah, right.
correct.
the same way. Has it been considered or shot down that that be an entrance only off of Grassy Plain,
A right in, right out?
No, out, just in.
No, out.
right or left in,
Well,
or just?
I think that would dramatic,
That would
it would
put-
add a lot of pressure on that
Correct.
front
Right.
corner. And getting on and off of Diamond or Grassy Plain, you know, to get to Grassy Plain.
You might have the inverse of what the problem.
What you're trying to, yeah,
As a-
and I
As
was,
as a property owner, we would not be open to making it just entrance only.
Yep.
It just
Like I said, I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm
Yeah.
just, picturing the use case of that
Yeah,
being only to do what could be done by the other.
and to explain it to you better in
Like I
layman's
said.
term, if this was the exit, this was the only exit out.
Mhm.
What's my quickest way to get back on Greenwood?
Mhm.
I may be tempted to go down Elgin Whitney
Yeah.
to the light.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Right.
My only
reverse it.
thought, Beth, and maybe I don't know if the fire department's waiting here or not, on the curved driveway coming off Diamond Avenue.
Mhm.
If nothing else, it's gonna slow down people.
Yes,
Because
we
they
discussed that
fly
tonight.
into that part.
There is a traffic comment.
And I'm guilty,
Yes,
I mean, I.
if there is a
think
calming to it.
People fly in there.
Mhm.
Now they'll have to slow down or they'll be in the grass.
Right, and you are entering from a lower velocity road than Greenwood,
Mhm.
so
You would
you're
think.
already going a
You
little
would
slow.
think.
You would hope.
Have you been down there?
Touche.
Eric, you wanna,
No,
Chime in, please.
yes, really, I think this is great. I think you basically said everything. Just want to acknowledge all the work you guys and the design team have done, because I know they have a lot of back and forth I really just believe a lot of my concerns and the concerns we discussed with part of Clean Hanover. And I think putting that driveway back where it is on Diamond really gets rid of a lot of the issues, and hopefully when you run the traffic analysis, it works. It sounds like preliminary, it does.
It does.
That's great, so I'm very optimistic. So, no other comments?
Greg, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah, no, I think you covered it pretty well. I don't have anything to add. I don't want to regurgitate, reiterate everything you just went through. So yeah, we're good.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Greg.
No problem.
This was one of those, before we go to the public, this was a real collaborative effort. And I wish that more applications would be like this, because it was all parties were involved in bringing it to the, looks like we're coming to a very quick conclusion, or conclusion very soon.
It's a tough site.
It is, it's a very tough site. One thing, before you go to the public, there's, I just want to add that we are gonna have the fire marshal review this. That can be done after a close of a public hearing. We also, the applicant also has to have DOT go through that also. Those are two technical aspects of review, and they can be conducted after the close of a public hearing. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr.
Thank you. I'd like now to open it to the public, both on Zoom and in the room. If you have comments or questions, please come forward, state your name and your address, and address your questions to the commission. When everyone has finished speaking, the applicant will then respond. Do you have anybody in the room who would like to speak?
Diane Ryan, 13 Karen Drive. I did the walkthrough. I wasn't at the last public hearing. My question, there's a couple of different questions. There's parking for the cinema right now to the right of where the entrance is. Is that going away? That's one question. And there's like a big thing of trees there, or a bush, or bushes or whatever that kind of softens it. I'm assuming that's going away. When I did drive in, I don't normally go into that parking area, the whole hub. But coming down Greenwood, it's not obvious where to enter there. So I would think that you might need some signs or something else to make it more obvious. because normally, I came down and took a right and came into the parking area there. And then on my way out, taking a left out of there, it was a Saturday morning. A lot of traffic, kind of makes your heart go a little bit, trying to get out of there. And I'm just a little concerned, people in that drive-through area might have that same situation, especially if it's a drive-through in the morning or whatever. And so I'm wondering if you were gonna do that, if you would end up trying to get people to go out the other way, do a right turn only or something and have them go out the way, on that curved area. And I don't see a real obvious area where you want people to drive, whether you want them to make a left, I guess you want them to go out that other way, but it just seems like there's gonna be a lot of traffic in and out there and coming out onto Grassy Plain. The other question was, where is the garbage gonna go for those two buildings that you're proposing? And right now, the Rite Aid has a drive-through, so I'm wondering, is there a need for another drive-through situation? I know on the left side, I don't know,
It's actually not Rite Aid, I'm sorry, it's the bank.
it's a bank.
Yeah, that has the drive-up window,
Oh,
like a
okay.
teller's
And
window.
so that's still there.
That will still remain for now.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that's not real obvious where people go in that area either. When we were walking back from there, I just wasn't sure. And then you didn't bring up the plan of what you're gonna do in the back of the building, so I just thought maybe you'd wanna talk to the public about that, extending the parking lot and all that, because I think that's something that, it would be nice to see, some pictures of, why you feel you need to extend the parking lot in the back, with traffic of the trucks or whatever. I guess those are my questions. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Not tonight?
Questions, not tonight.
Anybody on Zoom have a question?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, David. Commission members?
I have a question.
Well, no,
Go ahead, Bob.
well, all right, doesn't matter.
I know they're asking for a parking waiver here. Eventually, we're gonna come down to that, waiving some of the parking numbers down. I know on other applications we had in the past, they made it clear in the leases of the people renting the buildings that they park behind the buildings where, the general public's less likely to park. And that frees up a lot of space out in the front parking lots for you're looking for a good traffic flow. You're also looking for a lot of spaces for people to use. So I think that's something that should be looked into is, we were out in the back there on Saturday and there was nobody parked out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
And you wanna go to the public? And then you can go to the commission if you don't mind.
You guys like to respond to the public's question?
Oh, I can respond quickly to Bob's. Bob, we can and do on most of our properties, implement a employee parking program where we designate specific locations where employees should be parking. And we actually will issue stickers for employees. And then that's periodically randomly monitored and checked, and they can be towed if they're not compliant. So we're happy to put together a formal plan. The center, quite honestly, has been a little bit sleepy. It's not a very high traffic property yet. Hopefully that'll change, but we can certainly implement a program here for that easily.
I think it's in your best interest to do that because, you want the customers to be just.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I would just point out that we can't necessarily impose that on existing tenants. That would have to be something that is added to new leases or in amendments of existing leases, which require.
It's something to work toward.
But we definitely choose to pursue employee parking wherever we can.
Can I just make a comment in regards to that too, just based on experiences? If employees are parking and using prime spaces, the tenant themselves is not gonna allow that to happen. Those parking spaces are for customers, not for, tenants usually are very good at patrolling their own areas
Yes.
and their own parking spaces. And if there's an issue, they'll call the landlord.
Mhm.
Very true.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In response to some of the questions, the cinema parking. There's always been a loose arrangement with the cinema operator. In recent times, there hasn't really been much overflow parking, if any, but certainly my client is receptive to having people park in the lot in the evening, because when the movie theater is active, the shopping center is not, so it's a logical place to park. That's where I go when I go to the movies, park there. So that will still continue.
COVID pretty much ended the month-to-month agreement for parking that we had with them. And despite them reopening, there's been some communication, but between us, but there hasn't been the need for them to come back requesting to reinstate that. It's unfortunate. Sorry.
Thanks, Andy. And then I think we indicated that the bank drive-through would stay there for the time being. There was a question about a bush. I'm not sure where that.
I think the ones down in front at the entries.
This green space.
Yeah.
When you're coming in, there are some islands, but what's happening is we are keeping the green space around the driveway, just reconfiguring it. Here and here, we'll have basically a layered effect. We are adding a significant green space here on the bottom right hand, and we're also adding more green space here in addition to pulling this curb line back by about 5 or 6 feet to provide for this streetscape that we are proposing and discussed at the last meeting.
And I think you said there was an overall increase in the impervious surfaces.
There is, there was with the prior plan. We haven't gone through the numbers yet, but based on this realignment around the building, obviously depending on the final tenant that come in here, they might have a slightly different configuration, but this plan, I think, even more will provide even more impervious area than the prior.
And then I think the next question was about trash receptacles.
Dumpster locations. Yep.
Right, so we are showing in both locations a dumpster enclosure here for the western pad, and we're showing one here for the eastern pad.
And if there are additional questions, Mr. Chair, we'd be happy to address.
There was actually in the back of the.
Yeah, the back.
So,
I'm sorry.
yeah. So we were presenting the changes in the plan, that this area in the back has not changed. But regarding has not changed from what we were previously proposing, but it is a difference from what is there now. Right now, this parking basically goes on a little bit different angle. And we are moving the paved area closer to this rear property line. The main reason is to allow for the parking to remain, but also to allow for the ability for trucks to maneuver in the back. So it makes them more functional parking spaces by widening out the pavement, because you have more room for the trucks to maneuver. So that was the reason for moving the paving out closer to the property line. Where we do abut some this is all residentially zoned back here, but these properties here are actual residences. We're proposing some various landscaping here to provide screening in the understory. There's large deciduous trees along the property line that will remain. There are some trees right at the curb line, the existing curb line, that will be removed. But the intention here is to provide additional screening and the understory to supplement the existing deciduous canopy in this location.
And that'll be placed at the time of, instead of saying, we're gonna put in a line of deciduous trees or evergreens, whatever, it'll be placed strategically once it's cleared out. And I think that's the best way to handle that.
And there'll be a fence there for them.
There is a new
fence there
fence there
now.
now, a cedar fence, and it will remain.
Okay. Just a question, is that a dumpster pad jutting out there?
Yes.
This year, yes.
Is it done intentionally that way to keep people from parking closer to the buildings in the back? Or,
It allows for circulation of smaller box trucks and vehicles back to the back of like the dry cleaner, the Chinese restaurant and the laundromat. But the real goal was to relocate it from right next to that residence in the corner to get the operation and the aroma.
it just looks odd. to see it out in the middle of the parking.
Right.
Yeah,
They're currently here and we're going to move them
Correct.
away from the residents
yeah.
to put them here.
Good idea. Thank you.
I think Ms. Bryant asked about a sign, showing where the entrance to Diamond Avenue was. Didn't you, Diane?
Yeah,
Oh, signage. Well, we could do some kind of internal directional signage. Once people are in there to tell people, go this way to get out Diamond Ave or Greenwood and do something like that. I don't know. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
yeah, and I was also wondering, if you're trying to have people as they exit that
Mhm.
building, if you're having them go to the left, that's creating much more traffic in that direction, but if you had them go out on
On Diamond.
Diamond, to the
Yeah.
right or to make a left or whatever, it's a little less crazy with the light and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the benefits of this is we are moving that intersection or that entry exit a little further away from the corner,
Mhm.
which actually will make that left-hand turn out of there, while not completely safe, it'll make it feel a little bit better because you got a little bit more time, as far as somebody coming around the corner. I'm not sure how it would be internal directory again, where we would put signage, head downtown, leave exit Diamond Avenue, or something like that. To try and clue people in. And honestly, there's a lot of people that go there already. A lot of the same people that visit will just be visiting more. And so we're also kind of assuming that most people coming there will be already familiar with kind of the pattern and the layout, and how much of a pain it is to get in and out. To be honest, it is. It's a challenge from an access standpoint.
Just one minor item I just wanted to mention, and I made a note for myself. When we get to the point where the pads are being built, just because of their proximity to the road and being able to be seen from the road out of Route 6, what we started to do was have our trash enclosures have some type of a brick facade instead of just doing a plain old chain link cedar, whatever. But we have the enclosure itself made out of brick, 6 feet high. But we can talk about that at the time of build, but if you could I'll mention it if it's not already mentioned in the plan on the detail sheet. But for both of the pads, I think that would work best, because you're fixing it up, you're making it look very presentable. And just thinking of the future in case I'm not here and it comes in 4 years from now, you'll say, why are we doing this? And the reason is because of it's more of an aesthetic appeal.
Right.
When you're walking.
Yeah, we can work something.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Yeah, are there any proposed changes to lighting with the new lot configuration?
Yes, there will be new lights throughout the parking lot because we are significantly modifying
Mhm.
the layout.
Was that in the previous proposal? Or I don't see anything on this one.
I believe it was in the previous.
This is what's your name.
Yeah.
We discussed it
On the
I
original.
thought we discussed it last time.
Yeah.
No?
in our meetings,
Yeah, so there is a lighting plan included. The lights are going to be
Okay, that's in
LED.
the file.
correct.
Is there any opportunity for high efficiency or dark skies, timers, things like that that can?
These will be downward lights.
Mhm.
LED,
LED.
LED fixtures, so they are. high
So replacing all the existing sodium or whatever there.
Mhm.
Correct, because we are significantly modifying the layout.
We have been, and it looks a little bit strange, but there may still be some color variations in there. But we have systematically gone through and have been replacing the high pressure sodiums or metal halides with the corn, for lack of a better word, it's a corn cob LED replacement bulb. Because you don't have to go back. And it's a very efficient, low cost way of converting without spending a lot of upfront capital. I think we're almost probably through every light by now, knowing the lifespan of metal halides. We've probably gotten there, but that was an old fixture retro. These will be all new LED.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. Not being a traffic expert beyond trying to make a left onto Grassy Plain Street. You used the expressions level of service and you gave some alphabet numbers. You also talked about a queue, which I know is not necessarily a queue, but it means a line. Getting in line. Could you explain what those letters mean?
Sure. So the levels of service are the anticipated delays that you would experience, A being the best and F being the worst. But what you're looking at is the change in the level of service and whether or not there's an adverse impact from what currently exists. So our traffic study is going to be revised to include the distributions for this new plan, but we went through them preliminarily. And where we were seeing at the driveway in the weekday AM hour going out to Grassy Plain with the prior plan level of service F, in the weekday AM hour, we're seeing level of service C. So as compared to a level of service B. So it's a measure of delay is what those levels of services are. And then the Q is the anticipated distance that the cars will line up in the worst case scenarios.
Okay.
So the prior plan did in the worst case scenarios, I believe the 95 percentile Q, look at cars that would actually back up into the parking lot, waiting to make the left or the right, but now they'd be contained within this new driveway. Even on the Saturday hour, which is the one that was the worst condition. So that's been improved.
Okay, thank you. This sidewalk that's currently on the south side, that goes from Diamond over onto Greenwood. Is that staying or are you fixing that up? I think there's a driveway there.
There's a sidewalk
there's a
there,
sidewalk?
yes, yeah, because the bus stop is right there as well.
Right,
And all of that will remain. The bus
That's
stop
right,
will
everything.
stay, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
this sidewalk is actually in the state right of way. This line here
Right.
is the property line. So that will remain. We're just providing a connection to our site on either side of the bus stop.
okay, understood, thank you.
But you'll be able to get all the way to the east side of the property through pedestrian access
Right.
without even going along the street. You
Right,
can
I
go
saw,
through the
right, I
property.
saw that. Listen, not to try to, complain, it's your business because that's not my area. You're putting a pad. Used to be, now we're talking about the south, east side,
East
that
side.
one,
East
that guy
side.
over there, right?
Yeah.
It was going to be a drive-through. It is no longer a drive-through. What is the impact of this new entrance that takes people away from that new, whatever retail business is going to go in there?
I wouldn't think of it as taking them away from that pad. What you're really doing with a couple of things, and Rob touched on one before when the chairman was talking about the sharp turn into there. For one, you're dramatically slowing people down. as to get them on to kind of land on the property. The second thing you're doing is you're sending them, instead of up the page and, you kind of into the never land of this open parking field like is now, you're directing them across the bottom of the site where they have to make choices. They can't just, check their phone while they're getting across they have to pick where they're going to turn up and head up towards the building and park, which controls them and kind of helps people find their way around even more. When you do that, you achieve a kind of I don't want to call it a tide pool, but you create kind of a safer dead zone where that handicap stall is in front of the building, where you will not have direct entry of people not really paying attention to what's going on, interacting with the pedestrians that are parked and walking over to the building.
Okay.
So it really takes the traffic away from there for a really good reason, but it doesn't it's not starving the building.
It's not starving the one on the one on the eastern side.
No, because they're gonna go there anyway.
If they want to go there. they're gonna go.
Exactly.
Okay, understood. Thank you. So we're now down 3 businesses in the existing building. And you're proposing adding 2 new retail spaces.
Correct.
Again, not my wheelhouse, and I'm not trying to, mansplain or whatever the word is. Can you help me understand this?
Yeah, so, good. I mean, it's a great question, right? Why are you adding more retail to a space that has empty retail boxes? And the answer is twofold. One, we're not going to build those buildings unless we have tenants for them. We're not going to build empty buildings. So there won't be extra empty space at the shopping center. The other thing is, by bringing in tenants, once we have tenants lined up for those pad sites, if we haven't already filled, and hopefully we will have filled those inline spaces before then. But if we haven't, the extra vibrancy that's brought to the center by the pad sites will help us fill those spaces.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay. A follow-up kind of thing. So whether you have, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you probably have an inkling of what may or may not go into on the Grassy Plain side. I'm not gonna talk about that. This whole reconfiguration is going to happen whether or not you have new tenants in there.
No. The most important thing right now is to have the ability. Because if you don't have the ability to put a pad in or to, like we're proposing here, you're not going to get the interest in putting a pad out there.
It's a chicken egg problem.
It really is.
No,
And
I'm not talking about the paths.
Well,
I'm talking about the parking configuration and all of that, the entrance, access, exits and all of that. Is that going to happen? I understand you're not going to build stuff without commitments from people that want to do.
correct. And that those parking and site changes would happen with a tenant coming to the proposed pad with the drive up.
Okay.
All right.
Changes are dependent upon being able to fill the building.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
All right.
And because it's holistic, both feed each other, and when you go out there for tenants, you're selling the potential of the property in total.
Right. Understood. I'm good. Okay. Thank you.
Bob, Doug, any questions?
I'm good.
No questions. I think it's a really nice plan. I think it's gonna add a lot, and I think it's tastefully done, working with what you have. I kind of welcome it.
Great. Thank you, Doug. Linda?
Great, thank you very much.
Questions?
Matt, anything else?
No,
So the only thing left open are the two reports.
correct.
So
DOT and the fire marshal.
with that, we can close the hearing.
Yes.
So I will close this public hearing. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for all of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Next on the agenda, and I apologize if I mispronounced.
No, no.
Gayard Street Corporation, 18 Stony Hill Road.
Right outside.
Yeah, Peter's right out there. We'll send it.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Rob, thank you very much.
Good night.
I just want to note you guys, for going to the next item.
Yeah, I'm very
So,
happy
Painters,
about this
how they been?
configuration.
Yay. Yeah, I know, it's on. They said they were going.
Yeah.
And all the furniture.
We're hanging out.
Monday morning at 10 o'clock.
Figure out how to get the light sensor on.
Motion sensors all the way down the hall, so if you sit there for too long, that's up.
That's a clear sign that it's time to go home.
Right.
We're ready for you, applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just before the applicant begins, note for the record that you did open up the hearing and continued it by reading the legal notice at the last meeting. I don't know if I had my report. You got, I know. Okay.
David, would you be so kind as to bring up the Google Street View first for 18 Stony Hill Road? Good evening. My name is Peter Olson. I'm an attorney with an office here in Bethel at 275 Greenwood Avenue. I'm here tonight on behalf of Gayatri Corporation, owner of 18 Stony Hill Road.
Please.
Gayatri.
Thank you.
I may not be pronouncing it right. Owner of 18 Stony Hill Road in Bethel. And the corporation is represented on the Zoom tonight by Kenny Patel. I think he's on the Zoom anyway. He said he was.
Yep, I'm here, guys.
So currently, the property is the site of a Days Inn operated by the applicant. And I asked David to bring up the street view so you can see more or less the current status of the property. The applicant would like to add a second building on the property, which will operate as a Sleep Inn. It's another brand in the same corporate family. The new structure would be located in the rear of the property behind the existing building, and it would essentially abut Interstate 84. In preparing our designs for the new building, we are running into problems with the Route 6 regulations. And specifically the height limitations of the regulations. And so that's why we're here tonight. A couple of years ago, you repealed the Stony Hill Mixed Use Overlay District, affectionately known as the SHMUAD. And one of the changes you made when you did that was a change to the RT6 district to impose a height limitation of 3 stories and 40 feet. This is a change within the last couple of years, one which has not been present historically in the RT6 district, which historically allowed 4-story buildings. So obviously, when we design a hotel, the number of rooms that can be provided is what drives profitability, financial stability for the project. So we have to find a way to fit the required number of rooms onto the site. And as it turns out for us, our ideal proposal is for a 4-story building. David, can you bring up our site plan, please? The 4-story option will maximize the space on the property for parking, for drive aisles, and landscaping. This is the alternate 4, which is our ideal plan, showing a 4-story building with 68 rooms in that location. And as you can see, parking is spacious, it's organized, and there's plenty of room for landscaping around the building. Can you please scroll down? We've looked at many different alternatives trying to figure out the best way to do this. Alternative 3 is the same development with only 60 units.
slightly smaller building, but with the loss of the 8 units, it's financially more difficult for us to do the redevelopment. And then if we drop down to 3 stories, and this is really the important one, the building kind of grows. If you squash the building, it oozes out the side. And we lose parking, we lose landscaping space, and it's a much bigger footprint of the building. So essentially volume is the same, but it takes up more space on the property. Our architect, Maura Wan, is here tonight. She's been working on the designs. Scroll down and let me turn it over to her to talk about some of our considerations.
Thank you. I'm Maura Wan. I'm principal architect at 72 Architects. Beth, I know you know that. I haven't been to Bethel in a while, but we designed the original Grand Apartments over on Grand Street, and we just more recently did the Caroluzzi's building. So we're excited to work with Kenny to improve the aesthetics over the Days Inn project. So what you're seeing here is a corporate template, right? Like these companies all have archetypes that they want to follow. And so I don't want to suggest that I've designed this building. But what I would like to do is talk about the effort we put into working with the engineers. Kenny had me join the team early so I could work with the civil engineers to do as much as we can to make the site attractive, right? To improve the aesthetics of the site along Route 6. And the first step would be to put this building in the back, but we're also going to come forward and update the building in the front using a similar architectural language, perhaps. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm hoping that based on my portfolio, you can imagine it could look nice. And so we did work with the engineers on the layout and the size of the building. We even looked at an option where if there were like 3 stories in the front, you could step down to 4 in the back because of the topography. But the engineering on that was so aggressive to get folks down there, and it still doesn't meet regulations, right? Because it's still 4 stories. I think that this compact 4-story plan is the best use of the site after looking at several options. And I'm looking forward to participating with the team on the development of the new building and the update of the existing building as well.
Thanks, Maura. So as Maura noted, that one of the benefits of adding the new building is it gives us the financial flexibility to update the building in the front that's been there forever, give it a new facade, new life on life, and update the driveway entry onto Stony Hill Road.
How many stories is Days Inn?
2, I believe.
2 right now.
Yep.
I was there tonight.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about the property is it slopes down towards I-84. So the 4 stories in the back is going to take advantage of that gradient. And there will be a retaining wall along I-84, but it is useful to keep in mind that it won't be sticking up above the existing building by too much. So
That's what I looked at.
so we're here to ask for a tweak to the height limitations of the regulations, specifically to allow 4 stories and 50 feet for certain uses as previously allowed in the zone. I drafted an amendment that applies this tweak as a footnote to the basic height limitation. So the height limitation will remain 3 stories and 40 feet for the entire zone, but there'll be a footnote to in the RT6 zone that says the commission may, by special permit, approve up to a 4-story building with a maximum height of 50 feet, provided the property is solely used for one or more of the following: hotel, motel, or motor hotel. And that language is because that's how that use is defined in your regulations. It's a hotel, motel, or motor hotel. So by special permit allows you to retain discretion on any particular site to allow the 4-story building. And it is only allowed for hotels, motels, and motor hotels, of which we are one. So that's all we have for our presentation tonight. I'm here to answer questions and hopefully discuss this with you. Thank you.
My report is here. I don't know if I need to read it out loud or not. No. Just note it for the record that there are also some attachments to it. And that's from the Route 6 corridor study. In regards to segments of the study pertaining to height, how we came to that when we did the actual Route 6 study, I think in 2009,
Not sure.
10. I can't even remember at this point.
I thought it was 8 or 9.
2007, okay,
That's what.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember.
but anyways, it really speaks for itself. So I have no further comments to make it this time. Madam Chairman.
Any questions from the public, comments? Nancy?
Nancy Sudik, 2 Ridgedale Road. I actually have 3 points I want to make. One is a question to the commission. Why did you prohibit 4 stories in the first place, and what has changed that might make it acceptable today? And my second question is, if this is approved, will it open floodgates for any future applicant? And I don't just mean hotels, motels and microtels, I mean like even apartments. If they say, well, you know, you're allowing it for motels and hotels, why can't you allow it for apartments too? And my third question is, as pretty as that building was, Maura, that you put up on that screen, Maura, right?
Yes.
Yes. That actually looks more like 5 stories because of that great big thing on top. Yeah. And if that were to be back there, I think it would be extremely distracting to passerbys and everybody else. Doesn't fit in with the landscaping. Those are my 3. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I take a chance and the opportunity to respond to Ms. Sudik? One thing you have to remember is when you're speaking during the public comment period, it is not their regulation that's being proposed. There's an applicant in front of them that is proposing the regulation. So as far as asking questions in regard to why it was repealed, it's really not the appropriate venue to do it. And you could ask them after a close or during public comments at the end of a meeting, but this is actually reviewing this particular amendment to the regulations.
Okay, I guess
Okay.
I'm inexperienced enough.
No,
that I
no, I'm
don't
not
really-
just, I'm just explaining to you
I'm
that.
not really
portion
sure
of
what the distinction is, but anyway.
That's okay.
So
And,
I still have that question, so how it's answered, I don't care, but I'd
Okay.
like it answered.
okay. But I will tell you that a lot of times when commissions are doing reviews and making change to regulations, there's always opportunity to say, let's go back and look at this. This really isn't what we were thinking it was going to be. And then they make a change, either for or against. The second part is that with dealing with this potential change in the regulation, what it would do was add to the Route 6 area, apply to any property on Route 6, immediately on Route 6. If someone were to come in and propose a hotel, motel, or a motor hotel, it would be applicable to any property along Route 6. But that would be the only allowable use for the 50-foot mark, or the 4 stories, okay?
Any other questions in the room?
My concern with Diane Ryan, 13 Karen Drive, my concern is opening the floodgates of 4-story hotels and motels along Route 6. I think it's not. It just doesn't fit in with our town. I can understand that they want to, you know, renovate and do whatever, but you know, this would be a precedent, and I'm concerned about that. So, and I do remember you making the change back to 3 stories, and we're seeing now across, you know, from where the firehouse is, where the affordable housing is being built, that's 4 stories plus the gables and everything else. And I'm concerned that you could end up having that kind of situation all along Route 6 with motels. Somebody will sell their property and want to put up a hotel. So I'm against it. Thanks.
Any questions from the public on Zoom? David, any hands raised?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, let me give it a shot. In terms of why was the change made to reduce the 3-story? Speak for the commission, and actually I wasn't at those hearings. So I don't know what the discussion was, but I gathered that
there was a negative reaction to the approval of Copper Square, the property in front of Copper Square, which is 4 stories, and that was allowed by the commission. And the commission decided maybe we should put the brakes on further residential apartment development that goes up to 4 stories. I think that's why the change was made. But I think we have to look at the context of the Route 6 zone, which is that it's always been a commercial zone. And residential is a newer intrusion into that zone, with the larger projects that we've gotten built over the last 10 years. And so to me, there's a significant difference between the residential apartments and not wanting to see that proliferate and allowing the commercial uses that are there to grow, expand, renovate in place, and make what exists look better. And in order for that to happen, these owners need the flexibility. I can't say what's going to happen in the future. Will we receive applications for new hotels along Route 6? There's not much vacant space there. They have to knock something down in order to build that. Could we see an attempt to increase the height of existing hotels? Sure, I could see that. You know, the Best Western to me is perfectly situated next to Target. They could come in and ask for that. Would that be terrible? I don't know. But it's a commercial zone. It's supposed to be the economic engine of the town. And that to me is enough of a driver to say that this flexibility is worth it. Again, as we've said, the opportunity to add the existing hotel will allow us to renovate the front hotel, which will improve the streetscape, improve the access way, et cetera. And hopefully that's a good thing for the town. As we showed you on the plans, we can build a 3-story building and it will have 60 units as opposed to the 4-story, which would have 68. 8 units is a significant difference for us. But if you look at the site plans, as we both noted, it spreads the building out much more on the site. And to me, that's not good site design. It's right next to I-84. Let's take advantage of the grade change and allow that 4-story. One of the things Beth passed out to you is the Route 6 corridor study from back in 2007, and it recommends 4 stories for certain uses by special permit. As to whether this opens the door, the reason I crafted it the way it is that number one, requires a special permit. You retain the discretion to decide that a particular site is well suited for a 4-story building. And that allows the converse to be true, which is you can say, this site just doesn't work for a 4-story building, so sorry, we're denying your special permit. You retain the discretion. Second, as far as other uses saying, well, you're allowing it for hotels, why can't you allow it for us? When you act on a text amendment, you have the most discretion that you can possibly have. There are almost no reasons that you could give to deny a text amendment that would be overturning for. I say almost because there are definitely some, but very, very rare. So we're asking you this. If somebody else comes in and says, well, you allowed 4-story hotels, why can't I just build a 4-story apartment building that looks exactly like a hotel? You can just say, no, we don't think it's a good idea. And nobody's going to challenge that. Finally, if somebody did want to build a 4-story apartment building on Route 6, what you say here tonight doesn't matter at all because they can just make an affordable housing application and say we want 4 stories. I know it's hard to hear that as a commission when you don't have control over that at all. So I don't think those are considerations you should be thinking about. This gives you the control for the commercial uses that you need. And residential is going to happen if it's going to happen. Thank you.
Commission members, any questions?
Just a curiosity question. Does the occupancy rate in this area actually justify the cost of this project?
So I'll say yes, because we're willing to do it. My client, Kenny Patel of Gayatri Corporation, is on the Zoom. Kenny, can you answer that question?
Absolutely. We actually completed a feasibility study from a well-known company called Hotel Valuation Services. And their estimates of demand growth as well as average rate growth, coupled with the fact that there's actually been a loss of supply in the aggregate Danbury Bethel market because the old Sheraton was shut down during COVID is now being converted to multifamily. The loss of about 220 guest rooms has actually, been a boon to occupancy in the Bethel Danbury aggregate market, and the addition of 68 additional units won't even make up for that loss of supply. So we think that the new supply would be absorbed very well.
Thank you, Kenny.
So, present building, I know from the road looks like it's a two-story building, but then I drove around the back and I saw that there are doors and presumably rooms, like almost like a basement. And I'm just curious whether that building is considered a two-story or a three-story.
Kenny, are those rooms in the back?
Yeah, so if you look at the building from the front, it looks like 2 stories. If you go into the back, you grade down, and it comes across as 3 stories, and there are 5 guest units in the back there.
So that's one reason we're confident that having a 4-story building in the back won't have that significant an impact because of the grade that drops down.
Thanks. Peter, just out of curiosity, hotel motel, what is a motor hotel?
I don't know.
I was gonna look up that definition. Is there a definition?
No, I don't
Oh,
think
that
there
is-
is.
yeah.
It's I think these are terms from 1955 when the regulations were adopted, and that's probably something people knew what that was back then. What's the difference between a motor hotel and a motel? Don't know.
Right.
And honestly, what's the difference between a motel and a hotel?
Right. Yeah, these days.
You know,
that's for
I think there's very little difference between any of these terms.
I would ask Kenny that
Yeah,
question.
I've got a little bit of context. Yeah, I think, so a motor hotel was typically considered like a motel where a vehicle could pull right up to, the door. So
Right.
the guest could walk out and walk right into the room. Whereas a motel, you might not be afforded the possibility to park your vehicle right in front of your unit. And then a hotel is now considered to be an interior corridor where there's no access directly to guest rooms. You go through the lobby.
Okay, thank you. Learn something every meeting. Is there the possibility to see what the elevation might look like with the existing and then the proposed in back of it? Does that exist?
We didn't prepare that and haven't prepared that. All we've got is the sort of conceptual site plans. And the reason, frankly, is that it's a lot of engineering work to lay all that out without knowing how you feel about 4 stories. It has to be a 2-step process, because if you said yes, we go this direction. And if you said no, we have to go a different direction. We do have, not only do we have to grade down from the existing hotel to the site for the new hotel, but then beyond that, down to 84 is a pretty steep drop off, and that requires an engineered retaining wall. And that is going to be significantly different if we have to do a 3-story building than if we can do a 4-story building.
Okay, understood.
So I'm sorry, we just don't have the resources to prepare those at this stage.
No, completely
I am
understand.
eager to do that in the next phase.
I'm sorry?
I am eager to do that in the next phase.
Okay.
Take a look at what this looks like from the street, from different
Right.
angles, how the new building will be improved and how we'll get glimpses of this other one behind it.
Right.
But
It's in my mind, but that doesn't help.
that will be part of our special permit application.
Okay. Piggybacking off that of what the existing building with renovations will look like, will the applicant be adding 2 more stories? Or 1 more story, depending if we call that a 3-story or a 2-story?
No,
Are we moving up?
no, and one of the issues is parking on site. That if we added additional use to that building, we don't have enough parking spaces. So that's it.
So it's going to stay
It's going to stay
that level.
Yeah, it's cosmetic changes that we'll be making to the facades.
That's all I've got.
Well, as I said, I did go over there and for this particular site. And I walked it, I was in there and I thought, you know, looking at a 4-story building back here. It wouldn't, you know, because of where it is, it wouldn't faze me at all. But I remember conceptually, we had somebody come in. I don't know, was it, I don't know if you all guys were here, 2 or 3 years ago, they wanted to put one up near Armando's. And I'm thinking, another 4-story right there. I'm getting, quite frankly, I'm getting a lot of questions and sometimes phone calls because of what's going up on Route 6 now, that is 4 stories. And people in town are just not very happy about it. This building where it sits, where it's going to sit, I think would fit perfectly. But to change it for the entire area, I'm a little hesitant. I
Well, I
really
think
have to have
that's-
more facts, more information.
I think that's why the special permit criteria is crucial for this. That you have 2 pages of special permit criteria that are very site specific. And they allow you to make a site-by-site assessment and say this is appropriate here and it's not appropriate here. That's what they're there for.
I realize that, Peter, but if you set it up that it's for hotels and motels, that can be 4 stories, I think we'd have a real problem if somebody came in for someplace else and said, I would like to build that there. And it's in your regulation.
I disagree. Your special permit criteria have been well litigated. And, you know, they are there and they can be applied and should be applied. And there are enough criteria in there that allow you to make site-specific assessments of developments. And you can say, this site doesn't work here, sorry.
Okay, so, but now, correct me if I'm wrong, did I hear you say that if we don't allow the 4-story, that you're going to build a building, but it's gonna be wider, so it'll hold the same amount of rooms?
We
As
can't
in
get
3 stories?
We can't get the same number of rooms.
8 less, I think.
It was 8 less. That
How many rooms would this hold?
68.
Okay,
The 3-story building, the maximum we can get is 60. And the problem is that the loss of the revenue from those 8 make it much more difficult
to
for
renovate
us
the other part.
to renovate the other building. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it all goes hand in hand together. But I wouldn't be wary of allowing this as a general concept with the special permit criteria backing you up to say this site works, this site doesn't. Obviously, we think our site works. We think it's perfect.
Because of where it is.
Yeah, and
You have
another
an
site might not be.
advantage.
Another site might not be. I think there's plenty of wiggle room in your special permit criteria. That's what they're there for.
I have to do some more.
One thing that the commission has to remember is that prior to the SHMUD coming in, that regulation was in place. And it's been in place since 2010. And I'm sure it was, but I just am mentioning the major revision that was revamped that was done.
That's right.
It's difficult, but having been here for a while, you see the changes that have occurred in Route 6 with the allowance of residential uses. If you go back to the Route 6 corridor study, and you look at the amount of commercial uses by changing the regulations as they did, they try to encourage it to be more commercially developed. And over time versus what has happened out there and what's happened in general to the nation as far as retail and commercial uses. One of your only active clients at this time is the hotel industry.
And the residential that we put up there.
And the residential.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that even though 4 stories, 50 feet has been allowed for at least since 2010, if not before.
Yeah.
Nobody ever did anything with it.
No, they didn't.
None of the new developments were
No.
4 stories. I mean, Target was mid-2000s, that was 1 story.
Right.
The Best Western renovated, they stayed at 3 stories.
They did want to go higher.
They did, but they couldn't because they didn't have enough parking.
They didn't have enough parking, so they could not go higher.
The parking was their big problem.
Yes.
Yep, shopping centers were built, I don't know when Microtel was built, that's only 2 stories.
Prior.
Right, but it's still only 2 stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not what people were doing back then, but.
But maybe two stories is probably all that could get on that property, plus the
Probably.
parking.
Yeah.
Once again.
Yeah, so, again, there's other limiting factors for development,
Mhm.
parcel size being one of them. Which is again why we can't expand our existing building upwards.
Mhm.
And in regards to that conversation, it was a conversation you had with another developer on the possibility of doing what is called an extended stay hotel.
Mhm. Right.
And he wanted to mix up the two and have first floor with regular
Mhm.
hotel. And then the second and third
What's
floor,
this,
and the discouraging
hotel?
aspect of that had to deal with the extended stay.
Right.
That was not appealing to you at this time.
Essentially, that's residential.
A resident, what was more like,
Yes.
like the Residence Inn on Marriott schedule,
Transient.
because that's where my son works. Well, I know it well. So I'm done for now.
Questions? Bob or Doug, any questions?
I have a question. Would a residential hotel or like a residential type hotel be allowed by special permit under your change in regulation right now? And could they do a 4-story renovation to the front building using the back area as parking instead of putting the building in the back? You could have that in some other piece of property that, would be similar to that going down Route 6. Thank you.
So the answer to the first one is that I think the definition of hotel, motel, motor hotel includes the word transient. So if somebody tried to say this is, an extended stay hotel, and therefore you should allow 4 stories, I don't think that would be allowed.
Okay.
But I'm just kind of going off memory as to that definition, but I think the word transient is in there.
Hope so.
Yeah, no, Peter, I think we explored this early on because we were also trying to do a feasibility study for a portion of the rooms to be an extended stay with kitchenette, small kitchenettes. But the zoning code explicitly does not allow for cooking facilities within hotel, motel, or motor hotel guest units. So that was just, we moved away from that pretty quickly.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't making that change. If we make this change, that we wouldn't be changing it to where someone could come in with an extended stay.
All right.
Yeah. As for the second one, I don't know structurally whether the front building would support 2 stories, but that's not our intention. We don't think that works for the site. It would be somewhat more dramatic to have a 4-story building along Route 6 there. The reason we like this is it kind of gets hidden. You'll almost never know there's a 4-story building back there, and you maybe see the tippy top of it, but.
Yeah, and just to add to that, frankly, the development cost to add on additional stories to the existing would be prohibitive. And we would have to, it wouldn't flow really.
Well,
we wouldn't
also
add new guest units.
The existing rooms are accessed from the outside, and any new development would want to have a corridor accessing the rooms. That's all.
Exactly.
Doug?
No questions. I do agree with the applicant. I think this is it's like an ideal site for a building like this, right? The property slopes away, the highway's right next to it. I mean, unless there's some protesters who drive on the highway who don't want to see it, I don't think there's really anything that's going to rile anybody up, and lets the landowner use the land the way he wants to. And I don't see any downside to this.
Thank you. Yeah, any further questions, comments?
No, I just want to note for the record that this was referred to Westcott as our regional planner, and they did not forward it to adjoining municipalities. They did not feel it was necessary.
Thank you. So with that, can you close? There's nothing else standing.
Yes, you can.
So close this public hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, we need to see Linda and Doug. For Paul and Rich Tibbetts. I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I don't know who we seated and we didn't see.
You have to see somebody for Kenny Parsons too.
You got
Oh,
Ken?
yeah.
Oh. That's right, I forgot. Hey, we'll seat Rob Wallace for Ken Parsons. Thank you, Bob.
Mhm.
First item under business meeting is the minutes. Everybody had an opportunity to review them.
Hold on one second. Amanda, did you get all the seating?
No, I just got Rod for Ken Parsons. Who's on the city?
Rich Tibbetts
Okay.
and Rob Wallace. For Kenny Parsons.
No. Paul Staniel.
Okay.
Oh, wait, you got
Wait.
Paul.
Oh,
Shit.
family,
No.
huh?
You got all three, you got all three alternates here who can sit for all three commission members.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so let's just note that and we'll
Okay.
make the final arrangements when you do the minutes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we're seating for Paul, Rich and Kenny.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah.
Minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of 10/10/23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Beth, do we have any invoices?
No,
Ooh.
New business, nothing?
no,
Work session. Application for 42 Nashville Road, Tim Draper, 830G Affordable Housing for 3 units.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
please note for the record that I'm recusing myself.
Yes,
I'm recusing myself.
okay.
Woo.
Conversation, questions, comments? Discussion points? How about it, Penny?
Um. I have no real issue with the proposal. I do have a concern based on the neighbor to the right. And I cannot remember his name.
Robert Sutton,
Thank you.
Sutton, yes, Mr. Sutton.
Thanks, David.
you're welcome.
I think that, I think he made a good point of the danger or the concern, let me forget dangerous too much, of the concern of people hurting themselves. Deliberately or not deliberately, going from the Draper property to Mr. Sutton's property.
If you're to be honest.
Or, right. Or someone. That
He
someone.
was saying somebody was off his property onto
Onto
the
that, right.
Draper.
Someone's gonna get hurt,
But that was addressed, I think, because.
Yes,
the
so,
fence Being put up.
right?
yeah, so I'll, not to interrupt,
No, go ahead.
Mr.
No, no,
I apologize. So I'm just going to put up on my screen the latest response that the commission received from the applicant's project engineer dated October 8th. The first item in those response comments are, and I quote, approximately 40. Yeah, you want me to zoom in? How's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Approximately 40 linear feet of 4-foot high chain link fence will be placed at the top of the ledge cut along the southern property line. So if you're orienting yourself on if you're looking at that site plan and you're orienting yourself to be facing the subject's property, to the south would be to the right, exactly in the direction of Mr. Sutton's property. So this chain link fence is meant to go along that property line there. I think to address that comment that you're making for that safety issue.
Okay.
We went into that a lot at the last meeting.
I'm sorry.
We went into that quite a
Right.
bit. And I think Todd Ritchie did as well,
Right.
talked about it. And I think, and one of the other big things too was, Tommy Galliford signed off for this.
Yes, the commission does have comments from the fire marshal dated September 25th.
Mhm.
And if I can find those here, just bear with me.
And we have Laura's too, Laura Steele. Yeah.
Yes, I will bring those up. Let me do Tommy's first, or Mr. Galliford, excuse me. So these are Mr. Galliford's comments dated September 25th. He did not have any further comments that needed to be addressed as of this report, and this is the last one that you received from him. In terms of comments from the public health director, let me see if I can find those for you. Okay. These are a bit more substantive than the fire marshal's comments. I can confirm with her if all of her comments have been addressed, or if it is appropriate for the commission to add a condition to whichever decision you make for these comments to be addressed. I think it's just as an aside, just to mention this right now. It's worth noting that the Inland Wetlands Commission accepted an application for regulated activities at this property during their regular meeting last night. They must render a decision on their application for this property before you can render one yourselves. So you do have some time to do that, and in that time, I can confirm that Laura's comments have been addressed, or like I was saying, they can be added as conditions of approval. And the same would go for Mr. Todd Ritchie of SLR Consulting, the engineer that reviewed this for the town's behalf.
Yeah, because I think Todd Ritchie had made quite a few comments, and I don't remember going through a final report from Todd. Because I remember I asked him about the excavation amount, and he did say that he thought it was relatively fine.
That inland wetlands thing has to do with the water course across the street?
That's correct, Bob.
Exactly. So if we could just, look up and make sure that, Todd Ritchie and everybody is fine. We don't have to ask for a resolution tonight. No. We can do that next time.
Yes.
Well, you can come to a consensus if that is part of your discussions tonight. You just can't vote.
Right, no, I know that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't
As
know.
I said, I think Todd Ritchie was fine with what was going on. I don't think he had any other his comments, but that he thought he had worked out with Steve Trinkus what was going on.
Can I have another question?
Sure, Bob.
If we come to a consensus at some point, either tonight or the next meeting,
Yeah.
Could Dave write up the approval or denial, however it comes out?
I would be in a position to do that. Yes, Bob.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure we, we're going down the road and then have to try and do this all at the last minute at a meeting.
No.
Right. No, that would be great.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
I-
if we do a consensus, that's fine.
It would be staff's intent to have a draft typed up and prepared for you guys to have a hard copy for you to read at a meeting. It wouldn't be something that would be, for lack of better words, ad-libbed during a meeting.
No,
That's what I want to make sure we have time to do that.
No, you like I said, this commission cannot render a decision until Inland Wetlands does, and there are protections for circumstances like that. So, just for logistics sake, just so you know, the process that the Inland Wetlands Commission is using to review their application, they only have 65 days. Not that they plan to exhaust all 65, but they have 65, at least that's their standard
Last
window.
night, David?
Yes.
I'm sorry, yes,
They met
they
last night?
accepted an application last night.
And David, what's our timeline at this point?
So the commission closed on the hearing for this application at their last meeting, October 10th, 14 days ago. If you were looking at this from a standard application, you have 65 days to render a decision. So if you were looking at it from that perspective, you would still have 51 remaining.
Mhm.
So you have time, and again,
But if indeed the Inland Wetlands Commission takes its full allotted available time, do we have to seek an extension from the applicant?
no.
We just-
But
we would have
I
to
can
defer.
confirm that.
Okay, thank you. We just have to defer because of the Inland Wetlands not approving or denying.
Right, so they have to render their decision first.
Right.
Okay.
That's the way it's always been. I don't, yeah.
I would like to determine whether or not we have a consensus to approve or deny, so that
Yeah.
David indicated we can draw something up.
I would vote yes to have David draw something up for us.
And in support of
It's a board of passing it, right?
approval.
Right, so how I would phrase this, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Is if the commission is in a position for a consensus, it's for me to draft either a resolution of approval or a resolution of denial.
Is that a question or a statement?
A statement.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Rob,
There was a, in the comments from, environment,
Country.
the radon remediation, where was a suggestion
right.
that not, I don't remember seeing a response to that.
I believe that would have been a comment raised from the Director of Public Health. Again, I can confirm if whether or not that's a comment that should be addressed before this commission renders the decision, or if it's something that could be added as a condition to whatever decision you make.
David.
It was brought up at the first meeting.
It was, yeah. I didn't see anything in the responses.
David, you'll make sure that one is
Right.
Yep.
looked at.
So do we,
Wasn't there one of the meetings a response that they will put in the infrastructure within the building itself, anything needed for radon that would be encased in
Yes,
concrete,
estimate required. Right?
or anything that the building department would require, it'd be in place, but there wouldn't be a whole system set up unless there was radon tests that proved that they needed to get rid of the radon.
Great.
Yeah, if that had been discussed by the applicant at a previous meeting, I can go through that and look at what their response was.
That response.
Right.
So I think the consensus, I'd like to get everybody's opinion is to ask David to have a resolution of approval drafted for consideration at our next meeting. Is that
Good.
Linda? Penny?
Yes.
I would do a roll call for that, Mr. Chairman.
I'm about to do that.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Wallace,
In favor.
Kitty Grant in favor.
Ken Stevens in favor.
Penny Kessler in favor?
Linda Curtis in favor.
Doug, you recused yourself, correct?
Bob Liggard in favor.
Correct, sir.
Yes, he did.
And Mr.
Bob
Leggett?
Liggard in favor.
Bob Leggett.
Yeah.
So I will have a draft resolution of approval ready for the commission at their next regular meeting, which will be held November 8th.
Thank you, David.
Election night.
On the agenda. Beth, you can come back.
Actually, no, excuse me, that's November That's November 14th, excuse me, sorry.
Where are we? I'm sorry.
We're at, the board of selectmen.
Board of Selectmen has, in front of them, another, block of the re-subdivision. Has, it's board in front of them, and one of the requirements of that is a referral, an 824 referral to you. And we did receive a referral, I believe it's lot 3. I've misplaced it, okay? It's in your folder.
Oh, well.
I got it. Sale of 20 Trowbridge Drive. The Board of Selectmen requested under 8-34 your comments regarding the above sale. You guys approved the re-subdivision. You approved the lots. Do you approve the sale of this lot?
Yeah.
You want to make a motion to give a positive report back to the Board of Selectmen?
Go ahead, Connie.
I move that we give a positive report back to the Board of Selectmen for the 824 referral for Trowbridge Drive.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Kitty, I.
Bob Wigan, aye.
Bob was an aye. Doug, you're an aye.
Correct.
Linda, you're an aye. Penny?
Aye.
Ken? Aye.
We both said aye, both of us.
Thank you. So moved.
Okay, so that's the end of regular business. Do you want to add anything to the agenda for discussion from your previously 2 closed public hearings, or do you want to go forward with commission comments and it'll be on the next agenda?
I think that, at least from my perspective, we're ready to move on.
Move on to the rest of the agenda.
Mhm.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay. Court, you're on. Your comments.
You normally have something to say?
They're all looking at you, Kitty.
I don't tonight.
Okay.
All right, anybody?
No,
Commission comments, Penny?
I just want to remind us all that when we are being addressed in a public hearing, I'm going to use the word must, maintain an attitude in tone, in word, and in demeanor of neutrality. We cannot be seen as being, as showing favor to an applicant or disfavor to an applicant during public hearing. What we say when we have discussions after public hearings are closed and we're, doing our private deliberations, that is, that's something else. I think that we need to be remain cautious and impartial.
You're talking about during public hearing.
During the public hearing.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Penny, because that's the time when we're supposed to be taking in information. And so I think that that's very important. Very important.
Anyone else?
Here.
Comments from the public?
Public. Hello, public.
All 2 of us.
Looks good.
David, any hands raised?
Yeah, on here too.
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time for public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, David. Motion to close.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Good night.